Imagine opening a scroll so old its edges crumble at your touch, and finding a story you thought you already knew, rewritten, expanded, and whispered through the centuries, as if it were too dangerous to say out loud. In this hidden book, time is measured differently. Angels walk openly among people, and the covenant you've been told is eternal takes on a far stranger shape. This isn't a sequel to Genesis. It's a rival. It dares to redraw creation itself, to number the days with mathematical precision, and to place God's voice in the mouth of a messenger who is not Moses. Now let that shock drift into a softer hush. The pages no longer crackle but breathe. Candlelight replaces lightning. The noise of discovery slows, and you find yourself in the stillness of a desert cave where fragments of an ancient text lie waiting undisturbed and expectant like seeds hidden for millennia. Here in the low, murmuring dark of our shared curiosity begins your journey into the Book of Jubilees. It is a text that once stood beside Genesis, Exodus, and the prophets, only to be exiled from the canon and remembered by few. It tells of a world ruled not by chance, but by cycles, 49-year patterns laid down before the first sunrise. It names the watchers on the walls of heaven, records covenants forgotten, and times events to the beat of celestial clocks. As you listen, let the familiar stories of creation, flood, and promise slip into new shapes, as if you were walking an old city and suddenly discovering hidden stairways beneath the streets. Before we venture further into the shadows, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss a secret that history has tried to forget. Tonight, the door opens. Step through slowly. The silence will speak. It begins with a boy and a broken jar. The story is almost too perfect, like something dreamed rather than lived. In 1947, near the cliffs of Qumran, just west of the Dead Sea, a Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad Dib threw a rock into a shadowed crevice and heard the brittle shatter of pottery. What followed would change biblical scholarship forever. Inside that cave and in 10 others soon to follow, scholars unearthed hundreds of ancient scrolls, some rolled tight and blackened with age, others miraculously preserved. Most were fragments, some no larger than a fingernail. But among them sat something strange, a text once known, then forgotten. A text that told the story of the world through an entirely different lens. A text called the Book of Jubilees. At first glance, it looked familiar. Echoes of Genesis and Exodus drifted through its chapters. The names, the events, the patriarchs were all there. But the cadence was off, as though the melody had been rewritten. Everything was numbered. Every event dated with startling precision. Years, months, days, measured not casually, but with ceremonial regularity. The world, according to this book, moved in perfect seven-fold cycles. That alone might have been enough to raise eyebrows. But what truly stirred the scholars was what lay just beneath the surface, the voice of a divine messenger, speaking not in riddles, but in blunt celestial record-keeping. This wasn't oral tradition or prophetic poetry. It read like an ancient cosmic archive. The fragments of Jubilees uncovered at Qumran were written in Hebrew, much like many of the canonical Dead Sea Scrolls, which hinted at a troubling possibility. This wasn't some fringe Gnostic invention or post-Christian forgery. Jubilees was old, very old. Some scholars place its composition in the 2nd century BCE, possibly earlier. Its presence in the Qumran caves placed it in the library of the Essenes, a desert sect, known for their apocalyptic expectations, ritual purity, and hostility toward the Jerusalem temple establishment. That alignment alone suggested danger. You see, books aren't banned for being boring. They're banned for being disruptive. Jubilees didn't merely offer alternate dates or sprinkle in a few angels for flair. It rewrote foundational theology. It suggested that the commandments were older than Moses, that festivals were based on a solar calendar instead of a lunar one, and that the original covenant was bound not by human will, but by cosmic structure. This wasn't a supplement to Scripture, it was a challenge to it. Some early readers viewed Jubilees as Scripture itself. Fragments of the book were found in multiple Qumran caves, indicating it had been widely read and copied. For a community obsessed with purity and divine law, this meant something. These weren't casual bedtime stories tucked into clay jars. They were preserved with intent, protected from the elements, hidden from someone. But who exactly was meant to never read it again? The mystery deepened as scholars compared the Qumran copies with the full surviving version of Jubilees, preserved not in Hebrew or Greek, but in Ge'ez, the liturgical language of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Unlike Rome or Constantinople, Ethiopia had never discarded the book. It remained a pillar of their sacred tradition, copied and preserved across centuries, which posed a delicate question if one of the oldest Christian churches kept Jubilees in its canon. Why did the rest of the Christian world not only exclude it, but actively erase it? The answer may lie in the political danger Jubilees presented. It promoted a vision of sacred time that rejected the authority of the temple priesthood. It implied that the custodians of ritual had miscounted the days. Worse, it made the bold claim that these miscalculations were not mistakes, but corruptions, evidence of a fallen system. To preserve Jubilees was to accuse the religious elite of cosmic treason. Not exactly the kind of bedtime reading the Sanhedrin would have appreciated. And then there's the matter of angels. In Jubilees, they are not distant abstractions. They speak, act, supervise. They are assigned dominions, rituals, and nations. The angel of the presence, the being who allegedly reveals the book to Moses, doesn't whisper poetry. He files a report. The celestial realm is bureaucratic, ordered, and terribly present, which leads to one of the more uncomfortable implications of the book. If divine beings were this involved in early human history, where are they now? Were they dismissed, hidden? Or do they still watch silent and unacknowledged, waiting for the cycles to begin again? The appearance of Jubilees among the Dead Sea Scrolls sparked renewed debate not